The first thing she noticed was the silence. No coffee brewing. No dog nails clicking on hardwood. No ESPN murmuring in the background like it had every Saturday for the past 5 years. Just silence. Then her hand brushed the empty side of the bed. No warmth. No dent in the pillow. Just cold, hollow sheets and the faint smell of alcohol, cologne, and her own guilt. She sat up slowly. Her dress from the night before was crumpled in a corner. Her heels flung in opposite directions. There was a smear of lipstick on her wrist, and someone else's jacket draped over the armchair. Trevor's. She froze. Panic didn't hit right away, confusion did. Then dread. Then the realization that her phone was buzzing, endlessly. 17 missed calls. 3 voicemails. A single text. Hope it was worth it. Check the living room. She stumbled out of bed and into the hallway. The bookshelf? Gone. TV? Gone. Couch? Gone. The framed wedding photo she used to insist belonged centered above the mantel? Gone. Even the nails in the wall had been pulled. Only one thing remained. A small white envelope sitting on the bare wooden floor where the coffee table used to be. It was addressed to her in my handwriting. She didn't open it right away. Instead, she stood in the middle of the empty room, barefoot and shaking, staring at the blank space where her life used to be. Where we used to be. I'd packed everything I bought, paid for, or cared about. The dog. The tools. The records. The blender she never used but I loved. Even the charger for her laptop. Petty, I know. I left nothing of myself behind but that envelope and a silence loud enough to crush her. Because while she was grinding on Trevor under neon lights at some rooftop bar, drunk on lies and attention, I was at home, stone sober, listening to the voicemail she accidentally left when her phone didn't lock right. I heard everything. Her voice. His laugh. The clink of glasses. The way she said my name in a mock tone, followed by the sentence that snapped something inside me like dry wood. Eli would die if he knew. But what he doesn't know can't hurt him, right? Wrong. It didn't just hurt me. It ended everything. And the best part? She wouldn't realize just how much she'd lost. Until she read the letter. That's all the letter said on the outside. She sat on the cold wooden floor for 10 minutes before she even had the nerve to touch it. Her hands shook. Her throat was dry. Somewhere in the kitchen, the fridge buzzed like it always did, but it felt louder now. Too loud. Like the house itself was mocking her. She didn't cry. Not yet. I know Dana. She's the type who always tries to bargain with reality first. Maybe this was a prank. Maybe I was trying to teach her a lesson. Maybe I was just mad and went to a hotel for a night. Maybe. But no. The empty house, the stripped walls, the precise way I'd removed every trace of myself. It was too deliberate. She knew this wasn't a tantrum. This was strategy. This was surgical. When she finally opened the letter, I imagined her eyes flicking across the words quickly at first, looking for landmines. And trust me, I left them. You lied with your lips. But your phone told the truth. I heard the whole thing, Dana. I heard you tell him it was harmless. I heard you laugh when he joked about taking you home. I even heard the part where you whispered, "Just don't leave marks." That voicemail lasted exactly 2 minutes and 38 seconds. It was all I needed. I didn't even sign it with my name. Just 3 words at the bottom. We are done. She would have read that at least 5 times, hoping it was a bluff. Hoping I would come storming back through the door so she could scream, cry, deny, deflect, collapse in my arms, say she messed up, say it meant nothing, say I misunderstood. That's how she always handled conflict. Let the guilt slowly strangle me until I apologized for her mistakes. But I didn't give her the chance this time. Because the minute I heard that voicemail, and worse, the smug, breathless giggle after she said he'll never find out, I started packing. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I didn't even leave her a trail of drama. I just erased myself. And the best part? She didn't even remember she called me. That's right. When she accidentally left that voicemail, she must have thought she hung up. But she pocket-dialed me. So I got the raw version. No filters. No lies. No mask. Just the real Dana, caught on tape like some twisted episode of To Catch a Spouse. And while she was out there, grinding on a man she used to call just annoying Trevor, I was in our shared home silently detaching from a marriage I thought was unbreakable. She still hasn't called. Not once. I guess she's scared. She should be. Because she doesn't know what else I've got. And next week, she'll find out. The letter was only step 1. Most people think revenge is loud, messy, theatrical, but that's amateur stuff. Real consequences? They're silent. They're strategic. They're unavoidable. I didn't leave Dana because of a kiss. I left because of the certainty in her voice when she whispered to another man that I'd never find out. It wasn't passion. It was calculation. It was her playing the odds. And she lost. The day after I left, she didn't call. Not that morning. Not that afternoon. Not even at midnight when I assumed the panic would finally hit. I imagined her curled up on the empty bed, gripping her phone with trembling fingers, hovering over my contact, praying for a message to pop up, a sign that I was still emotionally reachable. But no, I gave her silence, just like she gave me the night before. What she didn't know was how long I'd been preparing for this. That voicemail was just the trigger. The doubts, they started months ago, when the late nights became more frequent. When she started saying, "I'm exhausted," before I even touched her. When her phone lived face down. When she laughed too hard at texts she wouldn't show me. I wasn't stupid, just hopeful. And hope is what makes fools of men like me. A week before the night, I started moving cash into a separate account. Not a lot, just enough to handle an escape. She didn't notice. She never checked our accounts. She hated anything with numbers. I also found the lease agreement for our apartment. Only my name was on it. Funny how convenient that turned out to be. I had my stuff in storage by the time she stumbled home that morning. But here's where it gets better. 3 days after I left, she finally broke and texted me. "Eli, please, just talk to me." I left it on read. She sent another. "Can we meet? I messed up. I know that. But please don't do this." No reply. Then she called. 10 times in 2 hours. I turned off my phone and watched a movie. Later that night, she showed up at my sister's house, where she guessed I might be staying. I wasn't. I was across town, sleeping like a man who finally took the blade out of his back. But my sister, bless her, called me afterward. Said Dana stood outside in the rain for 15 minutes, crying, mascara streaked, hair soaked, begging to just explain. But there's a funny thing about explanations. They always come after the damage is done. And I wasn't interested in fixing anything anymore. You want to know the cruelest part? She still doesn't know I heard the voicemail. She thinks I just found out. She doesn't know I heard the laugh. She doesn't know I replayed it over 20 times. She doesn't know I memorized the exact second her voice dropped, and she whispered something I will never unhear. "Let's go somewhere quiet." She thought it was just a mistake. A lapse. Something to cry over, apologize for, maybe eventually sweep under the rug with therapy in time. But it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And I'm making mine now. She's about to learn just how far choices echo. She caught me on the 6th day. I didn't expect her to find me that soon, but I guess shame gives people an unnatural kind of stamina. I was staying at a cheap month-to-month rental near the edge of town. The kind of place with furniture from the 90s and a faint smell of old regrets baked into the carpet. I chose it specifically because no one would look for me there. I underestimated how well Dana knew my patterns. Or maybe she just got desperate. I had just come back from the grocery store, holding a rotisserie chicken and a pack of paper towels like some weird bachelor cliché, when I saw her standing outside the front door. Soaked from the light rain, arms crossed, makeup free, eyes red and raw. The jacket she wore was one of mine, probably snatched from the closet before I could clean it out. I remember thinking, "You don't get to wear that anymore." She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me like I was a stranger. And maybe, to her, I was. "Please," she finally whispered. "Don't do this to us." I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and left it open. I didn't say a word. She followed. The silence between us was suffocating, the kind that clings to your lungs and makes every breath feel like a crime. I set the chicken down, wiped my hands, and sat on the edge of the saggy couch. She stood in the middle of the room, arms limp now, as if she knew no apology would sound right. "I made a mistake," she said the go-to line. I looked at her, expressionless. "Just talk to me," she tried again. "Scream at me. Throw something. Cry. Anything. Just don't shut down on me like this." So I did something worse. I nodded slowly, reached over to the side table, and played the voicemail. Her eyes widened before the voice even started. She recognized the background noise. She remembered the night. Then she heard herself, her giggle, the playful slap on someone's chest, the line she probably thought vanished into the void. Eli would die if he knew. She covered her mouth. I paused it. "You left this for me," I said quietly. You gift-wrapped the truth. Dana sat down across from me like her knees couldn't hold her anymore. She tried to speak, but I raised a hand. I don't need your version, I said, because I already heard the real one. Tears started. Real, full-body shaking ones. But I didn't budge. I watched them like a spectator at a sad play I'd already seen a dozen times. She crawled toward me on her knees, literally, reaching for my hand, saying she'd do anything, that it didn't mean anything, that she was drunk, that I was the only one she loved. I let her finish. Every pathetic, desperate word. And then I said calmly, "You thought I'd never find out. That's what kills me. Not the cheating. Not even the lying. It's that you thought I was so naive, so stupid, so asleep in this marriage that I wouldn't hear the alarm going off in your damn pocket." She sobbed harder, said she hated herself, begged for another chance. And for a moment, just a sliver of a second, I actually felt pity. Then I remembered how I listened to that voicemail while folding her laundry. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. She didn't move. "Dana," I said, softer than I'd ever spoken to her before, "I don't think you understand this yet, but I'm never coming back." And just like that, the conversation was over. But her consequences? They were only beginning. A week passed after that confrontation, and I kept waiting for the emotional weight to settle. It didn't. I thought I'd feel some sense of release after finally standing up for myself, after finally saying no to her tears, her dramatics, her textbook apologies. But instead, I just felt still. Not peace, not chaos. Just an eerie stillness. The kind you get after a wildfire, when the smoke clears and the trees are nothing but black skeletons. She tried calling every day. I blocked her number. Then came the emails, paragraphs of emotional confetti, each one contradicting the last. One would claim it was just a kiss, another would say they only talked, then another would admit they went back to his place, but that nothing happened. I stopped reading after the third one. I didn't need her rewritten version of events. I had the raw footage, remember? But Dana had always been obsessed with perception. She was the on-the-surface kind of woman, knew exactly how to smile at a dinner party, how to laugh just loud enough at someone's joke, how to compliment the host with just the right tone of sincerity. Our friends adored her. Our neighbors called her a sweetheart. My mom said she was the one. They only ever saw the highlight reel. So I decided it was time they saw the unedited cut. No, I didn't post the voicemail online. I'm not that reckless. But I did something that would hit her just as hard. Something more subtle, more permanent. I forwarded the voicemail to her father. That might sound brutal, but let me explain. Dana's father was a military man. Old school. Cold handshake, tight belt, God first kind of guy. He adored me. Always said I was solid. We'd play cards every Christmas, and he'd pull me aside to thank me for taking care of his daughter. So I gave him the truth. No commentary. No anger. Just the audio file. The facts. I sent it with one line. "Sir, I wanted you to hear it from her, not from me." The fallout was fast and unforgiving. She texted me the next day from a new number. "You humiliated me in front of my family. Why would you do that?" I didn't respond. But in my mind, I wanted to scream, "You humiliated yourself, Dana. I just stopped covering for you." Turns out, her family cut off contact. Her parents were furious. Her sister called me in tears, saying she didn't know what to say, that she was so sorry, and that Dana wasn't answering anyone. The image she spent years crafting had cracked in a single message. And like glass, once it splinters, it's never the same again. I heard from a mutual friend that Dana stopped showing up at work, that she was taking time to heal. I bet Trevor didn't stick around. Guys like him never do. He wanted the thrill, not the wreckage. So while she was ghosting her responsibilities and crying into throw pillows somewhere, I was rebuilding. Quietly. Intentionally. The best revenge isn't fire. It's freedom. And I was about to take one final step toward mine. Something she never saw coming. When you cut someone out of your life, most people assume it's an emotional decision. But they forget the real separation, the one that actually hurts the most, is practical. Mundane. Ugly. It's the freezing of accounts. The rerouting of passwords. The changing of locks, both physical and digital. Love doesn't die in screaming matches. It dies in paperwork. The morning after her family turned their backs on her, I visited the bank. Now, I want to make one thing clear. I didn't drain any shared account out of spite. I didn't leave her penniless. This wasn't revenge. It was protection. There's a difference. She'd already proven she was reckless with loyalty. I wasn't going to give her a chance to be reckless with what we'd built financially too. Our savings account, mostly funded by my freelance side gigs over the last 5 years, was transferred into a new solo account under my name. All perfectly legal, considering I was the sole depositor. I also canceled the credit card she'd been using, the one I paid off monthly because she hated dealing with interest rates. She was still using it until 3 days ago, probably assuming I wouldn't notice. Or worse, wouldn't dare cut her off. But here's the thing. Dana was used to getting away with things not because she was smart, but because I was quiet. That version of me no longer exists. Next, I changed the password to our streaming accounts, our cloud storage, even the grocery delivery app she never bothered learning how to use. It sounds petty, maybe, but it wasn't about movies or groceries. It was about symbolism. She no longer had a seat at the table she helped destroy. Later that afternoon, she emailed me again. The subject line was simple. Please. The message read, I understand now. I do. I messed up. But I feel like you're erasing me like I never existed. Can we please talk? One last time? I didn't reply, but I did attach a single PDF in return, a cleanly drafted separation agreement, pre-reviewed by an attorney I had quietly hired after hearing that voicemail. It didn't ask for alimony. It didn't accuse. It didn't even scold. It simply outlined the cleanest, fastest, most efficient way we could legally cut the rope. And on the last page, I left a single sentence in bold. This is not revenge. This is peace. 2 hours later, she called again from yet another new number. I didn't answer. I let it ring while I washed dishes, the same ones she used to leave piled up for days. Every buzz of the phone made her voice smaller in my mind. Every missed call felt like another breath of clean air. That night, I heard from our old landlord. Apparently, she was still living in the apartment. Alone. I don't know what she expected. Maybe that I'd pay another month's rent out of guilt or sentimentality. I didn't. I let the clock tick down. 2 days later, I got the alert that the key fob was deactivated, the unit vacated. She was out. Of the apartment. Of the finances. Of my life. Completely. But the story isn't over. Because while she was being locked out, I was about to walk into something entirely new. 3 weeks had passed since she last tried calling. That surprised me. For someone who used to flood me with paragraphs over missing a dinner reservation, her silence now was almost poetic. I figured maybe she'd accepted it. That she'd moved on, found another soft place to land. Or maybe she'd wrapped the truth in a prettier lie for herself. Told her friends I just walked out. Played the victim, wore the pain like jewelry. But then, one Thursday morning, I got a knock on my office door. I rent space in a shared building downtown, mostly creatives and freelancers. It's a quiet place, filled with introverts and espresso machines. So when the receptionist tapped gently on my door and said, Hey, there's someone out front asking for you, I already knew. Dana, standing in the lobby like a ghost wearing a raincoat. She looked thinner, older somehow. Not physically, but in her presence. Like her light had dimmed in all the places she used to burn too bright. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes wouldn't meet mine. I won't take long, she said. I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside and let her walk into my office. She sat on the edge of the guest chair, back straight like she was being judged. Maybe she was. I'm not here to ask you for anything, she began, voice low. I know I've lost the right to that. I know I broke something that can't be fixed. And I don't blame you for hating me. I raised an eyebrow but still didn't speak. She swallowed hard. I just need to say it. Out loud. I need you to hear it from me. Not as an excuse, not as a defense, but as the only truth I've got left. I was selfish. I was stupid. And you didn't deserve what I did. You were good to me. Too good. And I threw it away because I thought I could get a thrill and come back to safety. She paused, looked at me. But I came back to an empty house. And I realized you were never the boring one, Eli. You were the only real one. I should have felt triumphant. Vindicated. Something. But instead, all I felt was tired. Not from her words, but from how long I had waited to hear them. Years, maybe. Years of being overlooked, overrun, quieted. And now, when she finally handed me the apology I used to beg for in smaller moments, it didn't taste like victory. It tasted like closure. You're right, I said after a long pause. You were selfish. You were stupid. And the worst part? I would have forgiven you if you had told me the truth the next morning. If you had walked in and said, I messed up, we might have had a chance. But instead, you lied. You laughed. You buried it. And you let me keep loving you while you planned your escape. She flinched. Just once. But I saw it. I'll sign the papers, she whispered. I nodded. I already did. That broke her. You could see it in the way her posture crumbled. Like she'd been holding out a final thread of hope, and I'd just cut it without flinching. But she didn't beg. She didn't cry this time. She just stood, nodded politely, and walked to the door. But before she opened it, she turned back to me one last time. I know I lost you, she said softly. But I hope you find someone who sees you the way I should have. And for the first time since she broke me, I almost said something kind. Almost. But instead, I just turned back to my desk. She left quietly. No drama. No begging. No final hug. Just a woman who gambled everything on a lie and lost. And me, finally free from the weight of wondering what if. Only one thing left now. One final message she'll receive soon. And it's going to say everything I never said in person. The letter I sent her wasn't angry. That would have been easy. But I didn't want easy anymore. I wanted honest. It was handwritten, 5 pages long, no venom. Just truth. The kind of truth that comes after everything's burned down and you finally learn to sit in the ashes without shame. I told her what she did. Not just that night, but over the years. The way she made me smaller without realizing it. How her silence and arguments hurt worse than yelling ever could. How her need to be admired bled me dry. How I spent so long begging for scraps of connection that I forgot what it felt like to be full. But I also told her that I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Because I didn't want to carry her choices on my back for the next 10 years. I didn't want to spend my life being bitter, suspicious, waiting for the next betrayal. I'd seen what that kind of bitterness did to people. It turns them into ghosts that haunt themselves. I ended the letter with a single line. This is the last thing you'll ever hear from me. Not out of hate, but because I'm finally choosing me. And I meant it. A month later, the paperwork was finalized. Quietly. No court battles, no drama. Just signatures and silence. She kept a few things. I kept my soul. I moved to a smaller place. Clean. Bright. Plants in the windows, even though I still forget to water them. I started running again. I reconnected with my brother. I even adopted an older dog from the shelter. A pit mix named Jasper who snores louder than any man I've ever met. He's a good roommate. But the biggest change? I started seeing someone. Not in a dramatic, rebound kind of way. We met at a bookstore, of all places. She dropped a copy of Slaughterhouse-Five right by my feet, and I made some awkward joke about Vonnegut not believing in coincidences. She laughed, not the kind of laugh that tries to impress. Just genuine. Her name's Marin. She listens when I speak. She asks about the little things. She doesn't flinch when I talk about the past, and she doesn't compete with it either. It's slow, careful, healthy, and for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Dana was a storm I barely survived. Marin is sunlight I never thought I'd feel again. So if you're reading this, and you're where I was, confused, hurt, haunted by someone who made you doubt your worth, let me say what no one said to me at the time. You will not only survive this, you'll rebuild better. You'll breathe easier. You'll love again, starting with yourself. And one day, the thing that shattered you, it'll be just a memory. Not a scar. Not a curse. Just something that taught you how strong you really were.